Baseball was never my best game as a child. I was a little better at ice hockey than baseball. But don't get me wrong, I loved playing baseball. I just couldn't hit very well or throw very well. But other than that, I had a great time on the field. It was fun. And most of the boys on my team knew that we were playing for fun. Most parents understood that baseball was not going to be our career or even our ticket to college. But there was one boy on our team who had a dad with a different attitude. The dad had played some college baseball, and an injury kept him from the big leagues. At least that's what he told everybody all the time. The dad was at every game that the little boy played, and this was back in the 1970s, where my parents didn't even drive me to where the Little League was. They said, "Oh, you can walk the mile and a half, it'll be good for you." But this guy pulled up in a sports car to every game that his son played in, and he never, at least to my earshot, never had anything positive to say to his son. If the son hit a double, his dad would shout from the stands, "You could have stretched into a triple." If the son struck out, the dad wouldn't yell, "Better luck next time." No, the dad would say, "You're not getting to the big leagues playing like that." And the little boy's cheeks would turn red every time his father yelled. There was one game where the boy hit a grounder to shortstop and he was thrown out at first base. It was the end of the inning, and his dad pulled him aside as he came off the field, and he started yelling at him, "You're lazy. When I was in college, I never slowed down." And this little boy, my age, looked at his father and said, "Well, I guess I'll never be as perfect as you. I guess I'll never be as perfect as you." And that was the last time the little boy played baseball for our team. He stopped playing. His dad was holding him to an impossible standard. His father was asking this little boy to be something he couldn't be. He was setting his son up for failure and frustration. "I'll never be as perfect as you." And then at the end of today's gospel reading, we hear Jesus say, "You must be perfect, as your heavenly Father is perfect." To which I want to say, are you kidding me? How can I be as perfect as God? God is divine. I'm a messy human being. How can Jesus say in Matthew's gospel, "Be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect"? In saying that, isn't Jesus setting us up for failure and frustration like a little boy on the baseball diamond? Well, in one way, the answer is yes. He is setting us up for failure if we think of perfection in the usual sense of the word. If perfection means that I never make a mistake and never sin, well, I will never be as perfect as my heavenly Father. This is one of those cases where looking at the original language of this sentence can be helpful. It's in the Greek of Matthew's gospel. The English word that we hear today is that we must be perfect. The Greek word is teleos, T-E-L-I-O-S, teleos. Jesus says in the Greek, we must be teleos, just as our heavenly Father is teleos. And in Greek, teleos does not mean perfect. in the usual English sense of the word. Teleos, rather, means this, that you're doing what you're born to do, that you're doing exactly what you're made to do. And when you're doing exactly what God created you to do, you're being teleos, that is, perfect. You're fulfilling God's plan for you. Think of it this way. Let's say you're doing a little home improvement project there at your house, and there's a screw that needs to be tightened, and you grab a screwdriver, and you realize it's a flathead screwdriver, but the screw is a Phillips head screw. And you say, as I often did as a kid, "Oh, this'll work." And you try to put the flathead screwdriver in a Phillips head screw, and you try to turn it, and it doesn't work. So then you go back to your dad's toolbox, and you get a Phillips head screwdriver, and you put it into the Phillips head screw, and you begin to turn, and it's perfect. The screwdriver and the screw are doing exactly what they're made to do. They are working perfectly. So Jesus says we must be perfect in this way. That is to be teleos. In other words, do what God made you to do. Live as God made you to live, and it will fit you perfectly. God made each of us for a specific reason. He has a purpose and plan for everybody's life, and when we live the life as God intends, it fits us perfectly, like clothing that Franco himself has made for us from scratch. Because when the quality shows, it must be. Let's try that again. When the quality shows, it must be, oh, thank God, the power of advertising. When we're living the life that God has made us to live, it's like wearing clothes that are made for us. They fit us perfectly, and we experience joy and freedom and peace. In this section of Matthew's gospel, Jesus says, just before today's passage, he says, "Turn the other cheek." Isn't it hard to forgive? Yes, it is. But have you ever noticed how much energy it takes to stay angry? And have you ever noticed how freeing it is when we finally forgive? That's because God made us to be forgiving people. When we forgive, we're doing exactly what we're made to do. We're being teleos, perfect. In today's passage, Jesus says, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Isn't it hard to love that way? Yes, it is. But have you ever noticed how much effort it takes to hate? How hate consumes us and can destroy us. That's because God made us to love. When we love, we're doing what we're made to do. We're being teleos, and that is perfect. Jesus is not setting us up for failure and frustration. He's offering us a life in full abundance. Be the person God made you to be. Forgive the way God made you to forgive. Be generous the way God made you to be generous. Love the way God made you to love. If you strive to do that, you will be teleos, even if you can't remember how to spell it. And that is perfect.